the distinct pleasure now to introduce Letitia. It's off my iPhone without my glasses, but luckily I know Letitia. She and I've known Letitia for, I don't know, 5, 8 years, has it been? At least. She is an umbrophile, a total solar eclipse chaser. She's traveled all over the world chasing total solar eclipses, viewing her 15th eclipse in Palu, Indonesia earlier this year. And I have called her when she's on one of these trips, and I always have to check the time with her. Because she does pick up her phone, but you know, it's like, what hour are you answering your phone here? During her eclipse chasing, she stepped on 6 continents and flew over the 7th, Antarctica. To maintain this hobby when not stargazing, Letitia's employed at Ericsson as a program manager. Here's your project manager, guys. And has spent her career in a very technical field. Ericsson is the world's leading provider of technology and services to telecom operators, with more than 110,000 professionals and customers in 180 companies. Ericsson combines global scale with technology and services leadership. She's a graduate of SMU, a certified public accountant, and a project management professional. Letitia runs large programs for Ericsson, encompassing services, software, and infrastructure that enable the network society, which is pretty much end-to-end solutions. Before Ericsson, Letitia provided business analysis and project management services for a variety of companies in the telecom industry, such as Verizon and former AT&T subsidiaries. When not chasing eclipses, she's an active Toastmasters, both as a participant and mentor, a recumbent bike enthusiast, and Ashtanga yoga practitioner. With that, I'd like to welcome Letitia Frere.
I've never practiced this with a mic, so this will be interesting. In 1970 and 1972, the song You're So Vain, well, there were 2 solar eclipses over Nova Scotia in 1970 and 1972. And then in 1972, Carly Simon released the song You're So Vain. And it had that line in it, and then you flew your Learjet to Nova Scotia to see the total eclipse of the sun. To a 12-year-old girl stuck in a farm in Central Texas, this was just the epitome. Oh my God, do I need the mic? Are you guys hearing me okay? Yes. Yeah, you need the mic? Okay. Yeah. It was the epitome of freedom to go explore cool things like solar eclipses. So in 1991, you found me with my very fashionable solar eclipse glasses here. Very fashionable. And I have viewers on the desk. Very fashionable solar eclipses, waiting for the moon to take its first little bite out of the sun. This is a beach just about 40 miles north of Puerto Vallarta. It's a hot, hot day. But as the moons took a bigger and bigger bite out of the sun, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. The sand got more sparkly because the light was actually coming in as a different angle. And if you looked, if you stood under a tree and looked at the shadows of between the leaves, they all had little half moons in them. The light gets very, very eerie. Your eye adjusts to the light level, but it continues to get very, very eerie. Then you see the diamond ring. This is the last bit of sun coming through the mountains of the moon. And then you get the moon completely covers the sun. The first time I saw this, I just was amazed and in awe, and I felt something. I mean, it was an amazement that hit you in the pit of your stomach. The sun has gone out. Completely out. It just awed me. And spiritually, I felt, oh my God, the sun, the earth, and the moon had to align to create this 1 minute of beauty. I was seeing the prominences jump out from behind the moon that were on the sun. These red flares jumping out. And you can see this with your naked eye. it's just this amazing, incredible moment of beauty that happens only when things line up properly. And at the moment, I felt so blessed to see it, and also just made me understand the immensity of the universe. So after all that happened, the next thing I wanted to say was, when and where is the next one? But it hasn't always been like this. And this is one of the things, science is amazing because it takes things that we don't understand, we learn about them, and even though we learn how they work, it doesn't take the wonder and amazement away from it. We no longer fear solar eclipses. We're not scared when they happen. In fact, many of us actually anticipate them and seek them out. So that's the power of science. That's part of this message today, is that science is amazing, but it doesn't take the wonder out of what we see and what we learn. So I'm going to tell you a little bit how they occur. So the sun and the moon from Earth look to be the same size in the sky. The reason is the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, and the moon is 390 times closer to the Earth. Hence, that's why they appear to be the same size. Everybody here knows the sun, the Earth revolves around the sun, the moon revolves. No flat earthers here or anything like that? No? Okay. So as the moon revolves around the Earth, it basically at the new moon, the moon casts a shadow behind it. Part of the time, the moon is actually above what we call the sun-Earth plane. So the shadow actually goes, it isn't actually on the Earth of the moon. The shadow of the moon is off the Earth. Same thing if the moon is below the Earth plane ecliptic. Or sun ecliptic. So only when it's between the sun and the Earth will the shadow of the moon actually fall on the Earth. And only when you are in that shadow do you get to see a total solar eclipse. So lots of things need to line up. Also, you have apogee and perigee. Apogee is when the moon is farther from the Earth, and when that happens, and it lines up for a solar eclipse, but you end up with an annular eclipse. The moon doesn't quite cover up the entire sun. Perigee, the moon is closer to the Earth, and it will cover up the sun because it's closer to the Earth. So let's review real quick. New moon, plane of the ecliptic, and at perigee. And then, of course, you in the shadow. So this is a map of the 15 total solar eclipses and 2 annular eclipses that I've seen in my lifetime. And as you see, I have gone all over the world. It has taken me all over the world chasing them. China, Africa, South America, all over the world. But you don't need to fly that Learjet or travel all across. Palu was really on the other side of the world. You don't have to travel for the next one. It's coming to the United States. August 21st, 2017, it's actually cutting a path from Oregon all the way down to South Carolina, right through the center of the United States. And it's a good eclipse. It's at least 2 minutes long. Here in Texas, we're only going to get 80% coverage. Now, that means you can only see the partial eclipse from here with these solar filters. You can see totality without these, but you have to be in the path and only during totality can you see the eclipse with your naked eye. But as you see, it comes right through the center of the United States. From here, it's about an 8-hour drive. There's about 12 million people that are actually already in the path, that are going to be lucky enough to be in the path just by being there. But really 250 million people are within a one-day drive of the path, including everybody in this room. It's about an 8-hour drive. You go straight up 35E, it's about an 8-hour drive, or a couple-hour flight on Southwest. So I'm just going to walk you through the path here. So it actually starts at sunrise in the Pacific, hits the coast of the United States near Salem, Oregon, comes across Casper. By the way, the American Astronomy Society has actually planned to have their meeting for like 20 years in Casper during this eclipse. So they're there. It'll hit, maximum eclipse for here will be about 1 o'clock here, our time. It'll hit central United States, just north of Kansas City and south of St. Louis about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It actually goes over, it hits over Kentucky, and Kentucky is where they have the greatest eclipse, someplace called Hopkinsville. People have bought land there just for this eclipse. It goes over Nashville and then finally goes over Charleston, South Carolina, before it actually ends up in the Atlantic Ocean at sunset. So if any of you have family anywhere along here, you need to go visit them.
Before you move from this, like, you had different sizes of the, can you go to the previous slide, please? What does that signify?
This is the partial eclipse here. So here in Texas, we'll only get a partial. And when it's total here in Charleston, it's partial in Nashville. It's partial in Kansas City because it's traveling. Okay? So this map is kind of telling, and if I go back to the other map, this one actually tells you what the magnitude is of what you're going to see at different parts through the U.S. and Canada. So if we're here in Dallas, we'll be about an 80% magnitude, a partial eclipse.
So how many people are going to be flying here?
We're not sure yet. Well, we're expecting over 100,000 coming from all over the world.
Wow.
It's an easy eclipse. One, it's an easy eclipse to get to. It's in August. The weather is awesome. We have great roads and weather prediction capabilities. So if you pick Kansas City, but it's going to be clouded over, you can pick another spot easily to go for it. So a lot of people are coming in. And it's really funny because when I go for a tour, sometimes they're a little pricey. Well, now there are pricey tours here in the United States that I'm looking at going, yeah, but you know, there's all the Japanese guys. So why are there, this is a map of all the total solar eclipses in this century. And there's only 11 in 100 years. And that's in the North American continent. There's only 11 of them. That's why they're so rare wherever you start out at. There was one back August 1st, 2008, but it was in northern Canada, and the best place to see that eclipse was actually in China. I saw that one in China.
So is the April 8, 2024 going to be right over Dallas?
It is right over Dallas in April. We're likely to get clouded out.
Yes.
That's why this one in August is better. Yeah. Yeah, it will be. I'm actually going to try to see it from my dad's farm because it's actually coming right over my dad's farm. So regardless of the weather, I'm going to be there. I'm hoping for clear skies. Yes, the one in April is right over Dallas, Texas. We might get clouded out. The one after that, March 30th, is northern Alaska. 2044 is actually North Dakota and Montana. The next really good one is August 12th, 2045. These young people we saw up here will be in their 40s. I'll be 85, but you know, they have the opportunity to see from these on. I think some of us in here may not make all of those. So this is why I'm trying to encourage everybody to go catch this one. This is the one to see in your lifetime without having to travel across the world. Safety. Our fashionable solar eclipse glasses we have here. And I left everyone some viewers, the ones I had. The partial eclipses are dangerous to view with the naked eye. The total eclipse itself is fine. Once that last diamond ring disappears behind the moon, you can take off your glasses and see the eclipse, and you will see amazing things. Like I said, you can actually see the prominences of coming off the sun from behind the moon. And the corona is 5 times out, 5 sun widths away from the sun at least. And it depends on if it's a solar minimum or solar maximum. Someone asked me, aren't they all the same? No. they're not. Different times of day, different times of the year, solar minimums, solar maximums. The whole experience is just different every time. Oh, sorry. It's drifting on me. So let me just go back here. However, if you don't have these glasses, there's always the old-fashioned paper and cardboard one. I actually saw my first partial like that. 1979, I went outside, there was an eclipse, I punched a hole in it, and I watched it just on a piece of paper. Also, welder's glass, 14 or better.
Yeah.
Some people know that. How do you find out where to go? This is NASA Solar Eclipse 2017 Google Map. Just Google it. You'll get to here. And this map just is an interactive map. You can actually interact it and drill down to it just like you do a regular Google map. This one is drilled down on Hopkinsville, what I mentioned earlier. And what you get is this. It gives you the total eclipse, the duration of totality of that location, the magnitude, obscuration. Magnitude has to be greater than 1, and obscuration has to be 100% to see the total. And then it gives you the start of the partial, start of the total, maximum, end of the total, and end of the partial in GMT. So you need to do the conversion. The map I showed earlier does have the local times on it, and you can find that at eclipsemaps.com. This is the view in Dallas. You won't get that beautiful moon is covering the sun corona view. You'll only be able to see this only using proper eye protection.
You won't notice otherwise. You won't even know it's happening.
You won't even know it's happening. It'll just be kind of dark and eerie. It'll be a little darker and eerie.
What was the blue line on the map?
The blue line on the map is actually, these are the actual edges of the eclipse.
The shadow?
No, these are the outside edges of the shadow. The path itself is about 70 miles wide. And then this is center line. You want to be as close to center line as possible. Thank you for asking that.
So if you were anywhere within the blue line area, that would be good?
That would be good. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, this is an eclipse map. This is actually on my vision board for those of you who do vision boards. This is from 2010 to 2060. In 2060, there's a solar eclipse that goes from Brazil across the Atlantic, over Cyprus, Turkey, into like the Stands, and then China. I will be 100 years old. I expect to be somewhere on that path. I have chosen for myself the goal of seeing every solar eclipse on the face of the planet until the day I die. If I don't have the health to make the wealth to see the next one, it's going to be time to move on. And one of the things I want to talk about today is how that vision of my life doing this has changed the world around me to make it possible. In 1991, I saw my first eclipse in Mexico. You young people won't know this, but I actually had to place a call back to the States. I had to first call the hotel operator, who had to get a line back to the States, then call me back when she had said line, so then I could place my call back to the United States. Oh, and I had to book my trip with a travel agent. So these eclipses are the ones I missed. The one in 92 off of Uruguay, the one in 94 across South America. I just didn't have the concept of being able to see them all. I didn't believe it in my head. I thought they were just out of my reach. Let's see, in India in 1995, and then this one, this is the one that everybody brags about that went to this, was the one in Mongolia drinking yak's milk. There's a few of the eclipse chasers that were there for that one, and this one was hardcore. For one thing, it was in March in Mongolia, and on top of that, to get there, travel visas were a challenge. This is before China really, really opened up. So getting there was a problem, or trying to get into Russia back in the 90s. Oops. So the next one that I saw was in 1998. 2001 was in Africa. I got easily there. 2002 was going to be Australia. I could do that. Things are opening up. The travel agents have gone away. You can book online. Cell phone, I could get cell service. But the one that I wanted to go to that I just seemed impossible to me was the Antarctica one. And the reason is that the only trip bookable back in 2000 when I was looking at it was on a Russian icebreaker for 30 days, and we're talking Russian icebreaker. I would have to share a cabin with somebody else, and it was priced at $30,000. I was like, okay. And by this time, I was going to be three. I was 3 eclipses in. I'm like, 4 eclipses in probably back then. I was like, oh. I put my deposit down. But the world changed for me. That's the one thing about visioning is you make the goal, things will happen for you. I went to the 2002 eclipse in Australia, ran into another eclipse chaser by the name of Glenn Schneider, who actually arranged for Qantas to take their annual Antarctica flight. They actually have a flight from Qantas that goes over Antarctica once a year and does this kind of little tour. He talked them into going through the eclipse. So I went through the eclipse at 30,000 feet. Not a Learjet. But the good thing was, too, for half the 30,000, I was able to go first class on this plane. This is my picture from that. This is just a little point and shoot. But you can see the moon shadow on the ice. And then you see the sun from behind the shadow on there. It was an amazing flight. Yeah, so not quite the Learjet, but for me, pretty close. Pretty close.
Letitia, was the flight full of all your eclipse chasers?
So there was the eclipse half of the plane, and then the non-eclipse half of the plane. Because this is a popular flight out that Qantas does every year, just to fly over Antarctica and see the Antarctic coast. And so it's a popular flight anyway. But they charge more on the eclipse side of the plane. Back to the international travelers in this, the people in front of me were actually the Japanese astronomy group. And Keiko, a lady that I've since run into several times, was leading that group. Those guys were amazing. Talk about the engineering stuff. They had engineered these giant suction cups to hold their camera up against the glass. And then they had engineered like these little heaters to keep the glass warm so it would get frosty. I mean, they were just amazing. You should go by their site. They've got some amazing pictures. Oh, so I'm going to close real quick with my video. This is my best video that I took. And I have to get to my mouse, I think. Of the solar eclipse. This one was 2010 in Patagonia at sunset. And I cut it down to just 2 minutes, to a fast one. And I actually had screaming and noise, but I put the mute on because of your speech. I didn't want to play it around. This is amazing. To me, this keeps me going back to all the eclipses because it just continues. They're all amazing. The sunset, Daniel's, after seeing this video, wants to see a sunset one also. The other thing is about chasing eclipses and picking a big vision like this for myself is how it's also personally changed my life. Because I expect to be 100 and seeing that one in 1960, Ashtanga yoga, recumbent bike, I'm taking better care of myself. I take care of my career because I have to fund the things. It has amazed me as how much taking on a big goal like this has changed my life personally for the better. And so to the young people here, I really admire you taking on a big goal like the solar car or anything like that now in your personal lives, because when you do take on a goal like that in your life, things just fall in line. The world changes for you and makes it possible for you to do. So I expect this is my travels till 2060.
Questions?
Well, thanks, Letitia.
Any more questions? I'm sorry, I should have.
Yeah, is there any questions you guys?
When's the next sunset one?
The next sunset one is in South. I think it's the one. I think the 1919 and the the 2019 and the 2020 are both in South America, and they're toward the. I don't know if I can see them on here.
You can, it's on the Chilean side.
Yeah, here we go. Yep, sunset right here.
Or the Brazilian side.
Yeah, it's Argentina actually at this point.
Yeah.
So Argentina in 2019. So it's the one after this. It's the one immediately after this. Yes, Randy.
2 questions. On the video you showed, how many people were gathered there?
That site had a couple of hundred.
Okay.
An interesting thing, and this is one of the things about eclipses, not everybody understands my hobby. It was really funny is that the day of the eclipse was also the day of the World Cup. They had a whole tent just for the World Cuppers to sit and watch it on a big screen. All the tour guides were in there and weren't even coming out with the eclipse.
My other question is, your vision pursuit is solar eclipses.
Yes.
Is there a list of other vision pursuits that people have had that might spark interest?
I don't know if there's a list other than reading other people's interest on Facebook or whatever they're doing. I mean, look for people. The book Bold, which Randy has given a speech on. The book Bold is probably one of the better books I've read about big visions like that, about taking good things on in your life to inspire choices for you more than anything else. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. And would you help me join in another round of applause for Henry and his team? Thank you.